argument. But some people claim, what about the famous dilemma, Plato's dilemma, also known as Euthyphro's dilemma? And this is the dilemma. It says, well, you argue that God is the only basis for objective good and evil. Well, is it good because God commanded it, or is it good because of the commands of God are good? There's a problem. Because if you say it is good because God commanded it, then therefore morality in a way is arbitrary. God could say, kill all 55-year-olds and above. Right? He could say that, and by that definition, it could be good. But then that doesn't really agree with our sense of ought, that some things we do agree are objectively morally good and objectively morally bad. Now if you say, oh, is it good because the commands of God are good, then you already know what good is and you're judging God's commands. So you already know what good is. So there's a dilemma. Where do we go? I believe this is a false dilemma. We could chop it in half and have a third alternative. And it's summarized best by Professor of Philosophy Shabir Akhtar in his book, The Quran and the Secular Mind, published by Routledge. On page 99 he says, there is a third alternative, a morally stable God of the kind found in Scripture, a supreme being who will not arbitrarily change his mind about the goodness of compassion and the evil of sexual misconduct. Such a God always commands good because his character and nature are good. So his commands are good because they are derivatives of the divine will, and the divine will is that he is good. Now you may argue, well, why is God the definition of good? Because you're assuming God, by definition, is the definition of good. Well, I think it's easy to understand, because if God is the only being worthy of worship, then the only being worthy of worship is the morally perfect being. So therefore, moral truths are derivatives of his divine will. This is no wonder Richard Taylor, in Ethics, Faith and Reason, he says, contemporary writers in ethics who blithely discourse upon moral right and moral wrong and moral obligation without any reference to religion are really just weaving intellectual webs from thin air, which amounts to saying that they discourse without meaning.